3 cakes, you dog's day, Lao Tzu has to dismantle you today. The white knife shook the pile of fat meat on his chest, and then took a bright mountain knife from the hand of a small bastard on the side, pointed at the 3 cakes and shouted fiercely. San Juan didn't respond to him, standing here with a dagger in his hand, looking at the white knife with a gloomy face, not knowing what he was thinking at this time. Fuck that shit. The white knife carried a mountain opening knife, shouted majestically, and immediately rushed towards the 3 cakes with a trembling fat body. And the little bastard in the back also roared, and rushed forward with the steel pipe and the white knife in front of him. San Juan clutched the dagger and rushed quickly towards the white knife. The white knife picked up the mountain knife in his hand and cut it down on the head of the 3 cakes, and the white knife swung all his strength. If the head of the 3 cakes was cut off, it would be directly open like a watermelon. Sanbai hurriedly bent over, his body was already relatively thin, and his upper body went directly from under the arm of the white knife, directly to the side of the white knife. And the little bastards around him took the steel pipe and beckoned to the body of the 3 cakes, and he stabbed the dagger in his hand at the lower abdomen of the white knife after a few hard hits. The white knife immediately roared in pain, and the mountain knife in his hand slashed horizontally towards the body of the 3 cakes. Sanbai jerked a little bastard next to him, and as soon as he used his strength to jump up, he kicked the white knife in the head. The white knife was kicked and took a few steps back. And the little bastards around all took steel pipes and beckoned to Sanbai. Sanbai bowed his head suddenly, and the dagger in his hand was directly inserted into the thigh of a little bastard, and the little bastard immediately shouted miserably. With a slam of his dagger, he rushed towards the man next to him, kicking the man out of the air, and then plunging the dagger into the shoulder of another bastard. At this time, the white knife slashed down from the back of the 3 cakes with the mountain opening knife, and the 3 cakes hurriedly dodged, but the mountain opening knife still cut his back, and a long wound was exposed on his back. A little bastard took the steel pipe and knocked the dagger in the hand of the 3 cakes to the ground, and the other gangsters around saw that the 3 cakes had no weapons, and they all took the steel pipe and smashed down on the 3 cakes. Sanbai's body was hit a few times, and then he hurriedly blocked his head with his hand. After all, there are too many of them, and the 3 cakes are now exhausted. Within a few strokes, the 3 cakes were knocked to the ground, and those little bastards were still holding steel pipes and constantly ordering 3 cakes to greet them. He was clearly defeated. The white knife is supported on the ground with a mountain opener, and one hand is holding the lower abdomen. He had a lot of blood in his lower abdomen, and his body was already a little shaky. The sexy woman also hurriedly walked towards the white knife, presumably to help him. When she approached, a dagger appeared directly in her hand, and it slashed directly at the neck of the white knife. Baidao immediately covered his neck with his hand, then turned his head to look at the sexy woman next to him with wide eyes in disbelief and yelled, "You're crazy." But the sexy woman's eyes were cold and she didn't speak, and directly put the dagger in her hand under the armpit of the white knife. "Stop, or I want his life." None of us expected that the sexy woman would do this, and her current indifference was in stark contrast to the coquettishness that had existed before. And when the group of little bastards saw that their boss was under control, they immediately stopped. San Juan gasped on the ground for a moment, and then struggled to get up from the ground with a dagger on his face covered in blood. "Why are you doing that?" asked the white knife, covering the bleeding wound on his neck, with an extremely angry expression, to the sexy woman next to him who was pointing a dagger at the other side of his neck. San Juan lowered his head and suddenly laughed. He struggled to stand up with the dagger, he stabilized his somewhat cramped body, reached out and wiped the blood on his mouth and nose, and said mockingly to the white knife, "Why?" "Because she has been my person for a long time." "White knife, you've been with her for so long, but you still don't know her nickname, do you?" "Her name is Blood Rose, and she used to be one of my brother's most powerful men. After Shangshir's accident, she ran out with me, and people outside thought she was arrested, but she didn't. And she saved my life." "White knife, do you know how long we have been waiting for this day and how long we have been preparing for it?" "White knife, Lao Tzu swore before that he would never let go of any turtle son who had passed our prosperous life, and you were one of them. In order to find an opportunity to break you down and give you the deadliest blow, I let the blood rose mix with your dog's side. Otherwise, why do you think you usually treat her like that, and she won't leave you? Do you really think she likes your money? She's waiting for me to find a chance to kill you, this shitty thing. White knife, wait, this long-distance road will be surnamed Zhao in the future, it's just a matter of time. I want to take back everything my brother lost. Now, you either hand over the old archway to Lao Tzu, or Lao Tzu directly asks for your dog's life. After hearing this, Bai Dao also understood everything, but he didn't have a little fear on his face, but said to Sanbai with a sneer, "You fucking tease Lao Tzu, killing people is a fucking crime. If you dare to kill me, then you will eat guns as a dog." White Dao is also an old bastard who has experienced strong winds and waves. He has not experienced anything. So even so, the momentum on his body has not decreased at all. San Juan walked towards the white knife with a dagger in his face, and the little bastards around him didn't dare to attack him. The three cakes came over and stood on the side of the white knife, although the white knife was almost half a head taller than the three cakes, but the momentum on the three cakes was not inferior to the white knife at all. "Really, I'm going to kill you now, and then I'm going to take over your old archway," Sanbai said to the white knife with a cold expression, and he stabbed the white knife in the chest with the dagger. Seeing that the three cakes really dared to make a move, Bai Dao immediately became anxious, and he hurriedly softened the three cakes. "Okay, good, I lost, I admit defeat, the old archway will be given to you." This is also something that can't be helped. After all, he has seen the killing intent in Sanbai's eyes just now. If he doesn't agree, then San Bigu is likely to stab him directly in the chest with a dagger. Although the white knife has been mixed in society for a long time, he is not afraid of death. After all, money is more important than life. If you don't have money, you can find it, but if you don't have it, there's really nothing. A faint smile appeared on Sanbai's face, but he turned and punched the white knife in the face, knocking the white knife to the ground with a single punch. San Juan squatted on the ground, holding a dagger and dangling it in the face of the white knife. "It's not enough to just be the old archway, I want you to be my dog." When Bai Dao heard that Sanbai wanted him to be his subordinate, he immediately showed an angry expression on his face, but looking at the dagger dangling in front of him, Bai Dao bit his lip and shouted, "Brother Yuan." Sanbai smiled and patted Bai Dao's fat face, stood up and said to the two little bastards behind, "You take him to the hospital." The two little bastards nodded immediately, hurriedly came over, picked up the white knives on the ground, and walked towards the van they were driving to. The sexy woman stood next to the three cakes. Her face was still cold, and she could no longer see the lowliness and charm of the white knife before. And at this time, the three cakes cast their cold eyes on the three of us. Qin Ranxue was so frightened that she hurriedly hid behind us, and I was also a little stunned in the face of his cold gaze. I knew that we should have run away just now, and we shouldn't have waited for the white knife to clean him up, so we continued to go up and mend the knife. Now it's a good thing, the mending knife didn't succeed, and I put myself in. In fact, we didn't expect such a big turnaround, and we thought that the three cakes would definitely be cleaned up by the white knife, and then we were making money in steel. I grabbed the mobile phone and the bag tightly with my hand, and at this time Qin Fei Gong was awesome again. He led his husky and hurriedly ran to the three cakes, and then looked at us with a look of awesome and said, "Zhang Yuan of the Grass and Mud Horse, you were not very awesome before, you are now awesome to show Lao Tzu. Beat Lao Tzu, three cakes, you fucked them three dogs in the past, fuck it, dare to be bullshit in front of Lao Tzu, I really fucking think Lao Tzu is muddy." Qin Fei Gong still spoke to the three cakes in a commanding tone. This made the blood rose next to the three cakes frown, and the three cakes put the dagger in their pockets, and the bloody face took out the cigarette and smoked it, but did not move. Originally, the little bastards under the white knife didn't speak when they saw the three cakes, so they naturally didn't move. And at this time, the hearts of the three of us were raised. We were originally going to run, but Qin Ranxue was wearing high heels. She couldn't run, and she didn't know what she thought. She came out to fight and wore a pair of high heels of nearly 10 centimeters, and I didn't see her smash those dogs with high heels. Sanbai took 2 puffs of cigarette, and then said lightly to Qin Fei Gong, "Young Master Qian, can you stop talking to Lao Tzu in such a commanding tone? When Lao Tzu was mixed in society, you still wore open crotch pants, so don't order me, I can't get used to listening." "What do you mean?" Qin Fei Gong immediately turned his head and looked at Qin Fei Gong with some anger. Sampan smiled, and then his face immediately became gloomy, and a slap slapped Qin Fei Gong's face. "You can't hear Lao Tzu's words clearly, don't talk to Lao Tzu in this tone, Lao Tzu is not your subordinate. You give money to let Lao Tzu help you teach them a lesson, Lao Tzu has already done it for you, and now you don't care about your business, that's what it means, do you understand?" Not only were the three of us quite surprised, but even Qin Fei Gong himself was very surprised. We didn't expect that Sanbi would suddenly let us go, and Qin Fei Gong didn't expect Sanbi to suddenly not help him. After finishing speaking, he turned his head to look at the three of us, and then said with a cigarette in his mouth, "You guys are also lucky, and there is no major event that affects me, otherwise I will take the three of you to light the sky lantern." After he finished speaking, he stretched his waist again. "Okay, I'm tired too, so I'll go first. Don't plant your 3 children in my hands in the future, or I'll let you experience what horror is. As for him, you can do whatever you like, I'm not in the mood to care. Let's go." After saying that, the 3 cakes took the blood rose and a group of little bastards and walked towards the back. Chen Fei Gong covered his face and looked at the 3 cakes with a gloomy face. Maybe he hated the 3 cakes at this time, but the 3 cakes naturally wouldn't dump him. Now Sanba was already the eldest brother of the old Pailu, and it is not something that a stupid rich second generation like Chen Fei Gong can afford to provoke. Even if his father has a million money, he will not deliberately provoke a deadly bastard like Sanbai. After all, the 3 cakes are different from Chen Million. Chen Million is honest in business, although he used to have the shadow of the underworld, but he has been doing legitimate business honestly all these years, and he is completely good. But San Juan is different. He was originally a wanted criminal, and his methods were ruthless, and now he has a group of people under him, and a normal businessman is unwilling to provoke an outlaw like him who lives on the knife. Because he can't be provoked, he dares to play with others, who can bear it. As soon as the 3 cakes left, I immediately reacted, and as soon as I shook the baseball bat in my hand, I yelled at Chen Fei Gong, "Fuck this shit." After I finished shouting, I immediately rushed over to Chen Fei Gong. Chao Kong was originally a violent temper, and he couldn't find a place to spread the fire in his stomach. Just now Chen Fei Gong scolded us again. Chao Kong wanted to do it for a long time, and he also followed me towards Chen Fei Gong. And Qin Ranxue was wearing a pair of high heels. She immediately took off the high heels on her face after running 2 steps, and followed us with high heels in both hands. When Chen Fei Gong saw us rushing towards him, he immediately wanted to pull his husky to run, but he dragged it a few times, but he didn't drag it. He immediately let go of the hutchies, and ran to the back by himself. But the injury on his leg didn't heal, and he couldn't outrun us at all. When I got close, I smashed him in the back with a baseball bat, staggering him to the ground. He threw himself on the ground and immediately wailed, and I took a baseball bat and beckoned to Chen Fei Gong fiercely, and Chao Kong also kicked this shit. When we were tired, there was no movement on the ground on Chen Fei Gong's Dog's Day. I immediately calmed down. Qin Ranxue looked at us with some fear and said, "He won't be killed by you, right?" I frowned, and immediately squatted down and reached out to touch Chen Fei Gong's neck. "It's still angry, this dog is not dead." As soon as I finished speaking, Chao Kong kicked Chen Fei Gong on the ground again, paralyzed. "I'm sending you off if I'm not dead." Qin Ranxue immediately grabbed Chao Kong and told him not to fight. If he killed Chen Fei Gong, he would go to prison. I took out my mobile phone and dialed 120, and at this time, Chen Fei Gong on the ground was already like a pig's head, with a blue nose and swollen face, and he was completely unhuman when we beat him. After telling the 120 address, the 3 of us hurriedly left and went to the little electric donkey parked by Chao Kong. I found a small shop, bought a soft Chinese strip, handed it to Chao Kong, and said to him, "Brother, thank you really this time. If there is anything you need my help with next time, I Zhang Yuan is duty-bound." Chao Kong is indeed a good person, and it can be seen from before that he is very righteous. He could have run on his own, but he didn't, and he was still protecting me when he was injured, and I am very grateful to him. He was not polite, he directly accepted the soft china, and then said to me, "You are not bad, you are quite a man, but your combat effectiveness is a little worse. I've got a bunch of brothers who are having a good time, and they're going to be happy to have you on board." Chao Kong put the cigarette under his armpit, then stretched out his hand to me. I looked at him, and then stretched out his hand and shook it with him. "I'll join." This move was the very beginning of my entire brilliant life. Because of this move-in, my life has also undergone a huge change. We found a small pharmacy to bandage the wound, and then Chao Kong called me to go to his house to drink together. But my car was still on the side of the road, so I took Qin Ranxue over to drive. When Chao Kong saw that the Mercedes-Benz on the side of the road turned out to be me, he immediately widened his eyes and asked me if I was a rich second generation. I laughed and said that the car belonged to my boss and I was a driver. Chao Kong nodded, and there was no look of contempt in his eyes for me because I was a driver. I'm quite comfortable in my heart. Maybe he's my true friend like Zhang Yuan. I drove directly to Chao Kang's house, but as soon as I drove away with Chow Kong in them, a man wearing a peaked cap and a high-necked black sweatshirt appeared on his upper body. The zipper of his sweatshirt was pulled up high, and most of his face was hidden in the sweatshirt, giving people an eerie feeling. He looked at the car I drove out, raised his head, and whispered with a sneer in a hoarse voice, "I didn't expect you to grow so big, too. It's been more than 20 years, and you should be 23 years old now. Child, I hope you can live a peaceful and happy life in the future, and never embark on that road of no return." With that, he pressed the cap on his head, lowered his head and walked alone into a dark alley next to him. Chow Kong lives in the old city, which is an old-fashioned residential building, and it looks like he should be very old. When we parked the car and went upstairs, Chow Kong stood at the door and slapped at the iron door. "Sons, open the door, your father is back." After a while, the security door was opened from the inside. A person standing inside the door glanced at Chow Kong slightly drunk, and then scolded a stupid word. Chow Kong ignored him and let us inside. When I went in, I saw a few people sitting at the table inside, and they were drinking. "Sons, Dad is here to introduce you. His name is Zhang Yuan, and he is our brother who has just joined the gang. This cigarette is also Zhang Yuan's money, and from now on, he will officially join our big family. Everyone is welcome." Chow Kong said and opened a pack of soft china and scattered cigarettes for all of us. Everyone smiled and welcomed me. I felt very comfortable in my heart, and Zhang Yuan also had so many friends, brothers. And the others also took turns to introduce themselves. They were Wang Yunhao, Mouse, Superan, Zhuang, Zhang Yuan, Deku, Sun Maofei, Dufei. And then there was Chow Kong and me. These people are our first collection, and they are also my brothers Zhang Yuan for life, people who can neither forget nor owe everything for a lifetime. They also gave me the nickname Atom, which means atomic bomb. It sounds silly, but I've used this nickname for the rest of my life. Come, brothers, today is the first day that Atom has joined our family. Let us respect our brothers and fate. As he spoke, he directly opened 2 bottles of beer with his big mouth and placed them in front of me and Chow Kong. "Come, brother, we respect brother and fate." Chow Kong picked up the beer and said to me with a smile. I smiled and nodded, then picked up the beer in front of me. What about me? What about me? I'm going to join the gang too." Shin Ranchus saw that they didn't bring her beer, so she immediately shouted. The guy who got into the fart sat and ate the vegetables by himself. Chow Kong gave him a blank look and said, "Chow Kong." Shin Ranchus immediately yelled at him angrily, "Don't you want to chase Li Sini? Just say that my mother won't help you in the future." Chow Kong sighed, and then said to Defei in a softened tone, "Defei, open a bottle for her." "You're a fucking present." Defei said to Chow Kong with disdain, then picked up the beer and started it. "Grass mud horse, take care of your business." Chow Kong replied to him. "Adam, let me tell you about the bitter love history of this stupid Akang. He's a fool who has been chasing Li Sini for almost 2 years, and in the past 2 years, he has bought food and sent flowers. But Li Sini just didn't dump him. As soon as he sent food, people sent it to the trash can. As soon as he sent flowers, they sent them to nursing homes. A lot of money was spent, but people just didn't pay attention to him. He was a fool and still looked like he was in true love, always saying that he and Li Jai were great love. Do you say he was a fool?" The mouse took my shoulders and began to talk about Chow Kang's bitter love. "Fuck the mud horse mouse, if you slander Lao Tzu's great love in front of the Atom again, Lao Tzu will fucking fight with you." Chow Kong immediately said to the mouse, "What's the matter, my brother Kong? Do you want to stir up trouble? Practice?" De Zhuang said to Chow Kong with a cigarette in his mouth. The nickname De Zhuang is not for nothing. De Zhuang is really long and strong, full of meat, which is bigger than Chow Kongka. As soon as De Zhuang spoke, Chow Kong immediately softened. I know they're all joking, hurting each other, scolding each other, but they're not angry. Maybe this is the real brotherhood. Everyone picked up a bottle of beer, and the beer bottles in all of our hands touched together. Respect for brothers, respect for fate. The wine bottles slammed together, spilling out our passionate youth. Everyone has been young, everyone has a few brothers who have come from those youthful years, and everyone has their own debauched youth that they feel unrepentant. We've been crazy, we've been squandering. Now, many years have passed, some of them have married, had children, and had their own careers, some have lived their lives incognito, some have spent the lower half of their lives in prison, and some have been lying in cold graves forever. But we have no regrets about that period of indulgent youth, which is a happy memory for our lifetime, and each of us is proud to have that time. There were more and more empty beer bottles on the ground, and everyone was a little upset, and I was no exception. I had already been filled with 6 beers by them, which was already a little taller. Among us, the most powerful drinker is Zhuang, who drinks like water. He drank the most, but all of us were a little high, but the more he drank, the more excited he became. Even Qin Ranxue drank 3 bottles, and couldn't help but go to sleep on the sofa. Oh, it's not going to work, sons. Zhuang opened another bottle of beer with his teeth, poured a third of it in one gulp, and said triumphantly to us. I went, he was drinking in a fake bar, why didn't he have a reaction after drinking so much? Whoever can't do it, the man can't say no. Adam, our 2 brothers poured in Dog Day together. Chao Kong was originally a person who refused to admit defeat, and when he was provoked by Zhuang, he immediately shook his body and patted me on the shoulder and asked me to pour Zhuang together. No, I really can't, wait for me to slow down for a while. I really couldn't drink it anymore, so I said to them as I lay down on the table and blushed. Adam, you're real. How can a few buddies say no? Don't be like that stupid guy who gulps, just pretend to be cowardly when you drink. Zhuang said and talked about Deku. This is good, I didn't want to pay attention to him, but as soon as he said this, he immediately stood up and looked at Zhuang with an angry face. Grass Mudhorse, who the do you say? Son, Daddy said about you. Every time you drink 2 bottles, it's like a dead dog, you don't coax anyone. You see, the Adams are better than you drink, and we are the most drunk in our group. Zhuang continued to add fuel and vinegar to the said. I drank too much in a big gulp, and I immediately moved my mouth when Zhuang said it. He opened his mouth wide and threw himself on Zhuang's shoulder. I'll go, this scene is quite bloody. Zhuang's miserable scream suddenly sounded. He hurriedly pushed his mouth, but he opened his mouth and bit his shoulder. He couldn't push it away at all. Ouch, Mouse, Defei, you guys watching the show, get this idiot away. Zhuang was bitten and shouted directly. The rat and Defei rushed directly up, and Chao Kong also rushed towards them. I thought about it for a moment, and lunged at them. Now it's really a scuffle. Fuck the Mudhorse, who the fuck grabs Lao Tzu's crotch? Ouch, ouch, that idiot bit the wrong person, let go of Lao Tzu's legs. Fuck the Adam, I'm telling you to open your mouth, you idiot, what the fuck are you doing under Lao Tzu? Grass, that idiot hit the wrong person, ouch, Lao Tzu's eyes. Suddenly, a series of miserable voices continued to sound, and the scene was also bloody. When we were done, everyone was lying on the ground and started smoking. Everyone had bruises on their faces, and they didn't know who had beaten or scratched them. I'm enjoying this feeling now, I've never been happier than I've ever been. Big mouth, you idiot, look what you bit Lao Tzu's shoulder. De Zhuang lay on the ground, smoking a cigarette, and scolded De Gulp. He smoked a cigarette and gave him a white look, and he didn't dump him. I fucking want to know that Turtle Son just grabbed Lao Tzu's underneath, and he fucking pinched Lao Tzu's eggs and killed Lao Tzu. Defei stretched out his hand and rubbed underneath and said, you still said, who punched Lao Tzu in the eye just now? I don't know if Lao Tzu's handsome face was disfigured by you. Chao Kong said while rubbing his blackened eyes with a cigarette. You're so handsome, I want to know who the fuck kept grabbing Lao Tzu's thigh and biting just now. Ouch, your mother is so fucking painful. The rat rubbed his left leg against the thigh of his right leg and said, I've been messing with them for so long, and I'm letting it go. I rubbed my chest with a cigarette in my mouth, and said with a painful face, then who the kept grabbing Lao Tzu's mimi just now? Lao Tzu is not a woman, I'll go, it's painful to death. Don't think about it, rat, it's the big mouth idiot who bites your thigh, and only his pug can bite your thigh. As for who caught the Adam, I can't guess that. De Zhuang pretended to be smart and said to the mouse with a smile. After he finished speaking, I directly saw a black shadow immediately pounce on De Zhuang and bite him in the face. Ouch, him away. Otherwise, my handsome face will be disfigured. De Zhuang immediately howled in pain again. Without thinking about it, we threw ourselves at them again, and several of them made a mess. By the time we were done, everyone had sobered up a lot. Chao Kong stood up with a cigarette in his mouth and said, Brothers, why don't we also learn from Lu Guanzhong and worship us? We will become brothers, and we will not seek to be born on the same day and month of the same year. but only to die on the same day and month of the same year. That's a good idea, let's bow down. The mouse immediately agreed. I agree. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I agree. Several of us said. Chao Kong glanced at Qin Ranxue, who was sleeping on the sofa, and then said to us, let's go, move the table and take the bowl to the rooftop, there is a lot of space on it. We immediately moved the table and the bowl took the bowl. Chao Kong went to find a bottle of liquor, and the six of us went straight to the rooftop. The dark sky was dotted with some stars, adding a little more color to the already dark and terrifying night. And the five of them are like stars in the sky, lighting up my youth that should be lonely and lonely. Placing the table on the rooftop, the mouse went to find a handful of sand and put it in the empty bowl. De Fei put another empty bowl on the ground, and Chao Kong lifted the lid of the liquor bottle he was holding in his hand and poured a full bowl of liquor directly into the empty bowl. Then he took out the cigarette and burned 3 of them, which were incense, and plunged directly into the sand in the bowl on the table. The 6 of us immediately knelt side by side. Second Master Guan, today the 6 of us are here to marry Jin Lan, not to be born on the same day and month of the same year, but to die on the same day and month of the same year. In the future, our 6 brothers will share blessings and difficulties. If we break the oath we have made today, we will let our brothers die 5 thunders in 6 days. I'm Chao Kong. I'm Zhang Yuan, I'm Wang Yunhao, I'm Su Peran, I'm Zhang Yuan, I'm Sun Maofei. From now on, the 6 of us voluntarily became brothers of the opposite sex, and from then on we relied on each other for good and woe, life and death together. With that, the 6 of us bowed down to the ground and bowed 3 times to the cigarette that was burning on the table. After worshipping, Chao Kong took out a dagger, he popped out the blade and cut the index finger of his left hand, and the blood flowed out directly and dripped into the liquor in the bowl on the ground. Chao Kong handed me the dagger again, and I stretched out my left index finger and immediately cut a small wound, letting the blood drip into the wine. When I was done, I handed the dagger to Aizhuang, who also used the dagger to cut his index finger and drip blood into the liquor. And then there are rats, big flies, big mouths. After everyone dripped the blood into the liquor, Chao Kong stirred the blood in the liquor with a dagger, and then took a sip of the liquor. He finished drinking and handed me the bowl. I glanced at the red liquor in the bowl and took a sip without hesitation, the spicy sensation immediately irritating my throat. Zhuang and each of them took a sip, and when he finished taking a big sip, he threw the wine bowl on the ground and smashed the wine bowl to pieces. Ha, good brother. Chao Kong stood up and was about to hold us and said. All of us had happy smiles on our faces. Chao Kong stretched out his hand, and we took it one by one. From now on, we will be brothers, relying on each other for blessings and woes, and sharing life and death. Fortune and misfortune are relied upon, life and death are shared, we shouted as soon as we raised our hands. You don't fucking sleep, and when the ghost cries wolf, the old lady will call the police to arrest you shit. A shrewd voice rang out downstairs. A few of us immediately went to collect the table, and then hurried downstairs. When we set the table, Chao Kong proposed, brothers, let's go, let's sing.